The West Palm Beach Fishing Club is a very, very unique organization, and it's really a lot more than just a fishing club. It's a community asset. The club was founded in 1934 as a civic antidote to the Great Depression. The region was coming out of the Depression, and right across the street was the main charter boat fleet in the area. And Henry Flagler had been bringing down tourists from the Northeast for quite a while, and then the Depression came, and a lot of these small business operators that had charter boats across the street at the city marina were really struggling. And so city leaders got together and concocted an idea to create an organization that not only helped the struggling charter boat fleet, but provided a boost to the local economy. So in 1934, a group of leaders got together and formed the West Palm Beach Fishing Club. They didn't actually build this building until 1941. It took them a while to raise money and get a foothold. But right from the start, the fishing club was very successful and very engaged in the community.
The fishing was looked at as a real potential to help stimulate interest in the Palm Beaches and to get people to come here. And they came by the hundreds and then later by the thousands. They liked what they saw. They enjoyed what they could do. Fishing was spectacular. We had a great charter boat fleet. And many of them later came and they stayed here and became part of what stimulated the growth of the Palm Beaches, particularly in the West Palm Beach area. So this club played really a vital role in those early days.
The year after the club was formed, they created what really is still today the club's marquee event, which is called the Silver Sailfish Derby. It's the world's oldest sailfish tournament, and the whole concept of the Derby was to create an event that lured, pardon the pun, tourists from the Northeast down here to vacation, spend money, and battle sailfish in the Gulf Stream, which is right off of our coast. And it was somewhat of a gamble at first. They didn't know if it was going to be successful, but it didn't take long for them to realize they really hit a home run. And the Derby became a nationally covered sporting event during the season in the Palm Beaches. And it really helped put West Palm Beach and the Palm Beaches on the map because it was unique. It gave our region a unique identity through sailfish. You know, a lot of coastal communities have golf courses and palm trees and beaches, but not all of them have sailfish. And we're uniquely positioned so close to the Gulf Stream that we can take advantage of this seasonal sailfish migration. And so the Silver Sailfish Derby became a huge event. It really became the in thing to do in the Palm Beaches for a lot of wealthy tourists that came here. And of course, a lot of those people liked what they saw when they were here and ended up buying property, starting businesses, raising families, and relocating to the region. So the West Palm Beach Fishing Club really is closely tied to the growth of the region and provided a reason for people to come at a time when the region really needed a lot of help. From that point on, the club was very successful with a lot of other tourism-related initiatives, but the Derby remains really the hallmark event.
If you participated in one of our events, our staff would take all kinds of information about the visitors. For example, you get people come down here that wanted to go sail fishing, would hire one of our charter boats to go offshore, and they would compete in some of the events that were going on. They might only be here for a week, and yet they could compete in a tournament that was free to the tourists who came here. And we would follow up with information on how big the fish was, where it was caught, how long it took to catch that fish. And that information would go back to their local newspaper, where it would be highlighted. And if you can think back to that time, these were really unique happenings when people could travel from Chicago or New York or Boston, come down here, catch sailfish in the middle of the winter when it was terribly cold up north, have these stories to tell. believe me, it had a dramatic impact. The West Palm Beach Fishing Club has been successful largely because of its egalitarian approach. All of our members are from everywhere. Some of the most famous people in the world and some of the not so famous. Anybody can belong. And 1,400 members currently, representing a broad spectrum of the population all over the United States, not just here in Palm Beach County, have had a dramatic impact on this area and how this area is thought of. Probably that is one of the biggest reasons for the club's success, but it has always had its finger on what's going on in the community with regard to marine resources and fishing. I don't think any institution in the state of Florida has paid this close attention to its economy, to the environment, and to its people throughout the area. What they want, what they need, what they really prize as an activity in the recreational realm.
Some of the members sign their kids up when they're born, at birth, and they become members and stay members their entire lives. We have members, probably 2 or 3 dozen members that are they were born at birth members of the West Palm Beach Fishing Club. It's such a great place to grow up. When we were kids, we would grow up on the pier or at the bridges. Right here at Flagler Bridge, right down the street, we would fish all night long. And you would hang around with other guys and they'd say, hey, did you enter that in the West Palm Beach Fishing Club? And you'd say, wow, no, I didn't, but you need to be a member. And it just keeps going and going and going. The Pee Wee members in this fishing club, they grow up wanting to be junior anglers and beat their brothers and sisters and their neighbors and all their fishing buddies. And next thing you know, they're fishermen for life. And it's such a great thing to be part of the West Palm Beach Fishing Club.
As the club grew, the elders of the club became increasingly aware that the resource was limited. Specifically with sailfish, that you couldn't keep catching sailfish and putting them on the dock for show. And so the club initiated a lot of conservation and angling ethic practices that are still employed today and that are really a great legacy to the institution. First and foremost, it was the development of something we call the red release pennant. Rather than people bringing sailfish back to the dock, the club in the late 1930s developed a system where people could fly a little red flag and display how many sailfish they caught by the number of flags they flew off their halyards on the way in, and the sailfish would live to fight another day. And so that conservation legacy, which is still practiced today around the world, was one of the most significant contributions to conservation that this club has made through the years. But beyond that, it went into the efforts to tag and release sailfish, and modern day techniques including the use of circle hooks, which is a fish-friendly hook that's required today in all tournaments, and our club was really at the forefront of promoting the use of that hook. So the club has a tremendous conservation legacy. In the 1960s, we, under the leadership of then President Johnny Rybovich, initiated the state's artificial reef program. And right off the shores of Palm Beach was the first officially permitted artificial reef in the state of Florida. And it laid the foundation for what today is a very, very successful county artificial reef and estuarine enhancement program, which we're still actively involved in.
Back when the club got involved with the state of Florida, looking at the biological status of sailfish in the western North Atlantic, it became apparent to everybody throughout Florida that sailfish was a driving force in the economy. State representatives decided they wanted to designate a saltwater fish as the state's official saltwater game fish. And there were many species, obviously, that could have and should have been selected, but only one was going to be selected. And the role of the fishing club played in that contest to choose which fish it would be was, I think, pivotal. Some of the most extensive sailfish research ever conducted was conducted right here in a cooperative effort between private enterprise and state government, looking at trying to determine the biological status of sailfish, because catch rates had dropped for about a decade down in southeast Florida. And a lot of people were really scared to death that something had happened either in development along the coastline or pollution or heavy commercial fishing pressure that might have had an effect on sailfish stocks. So when the state addressed that issue, they found out that the reason for the decline in sailfish catch rates and abundance for several years was the result of not overfishing, but natural variation in the distribution of these animals due to weather, for example. We know that the colder the winters are, the more sailfish that swim further south and into our area. If you don't get the cold weather, the fish stay further north, and so they aren't as accessible. The research was pivotal, I think, and the connection between the fishing club and the Florida Department of Natural Resources so close that when we made our pitch about sailfish becoming the state's official saltwater fish, that's when it was, we beat everybody else. People were suggesting that snook and tarpon and other species should perhaps, maybe even kingfish should be the state's official saltwater game fish, but it was the sailfish. And that for many years was the symbol that was on one of the logos for the city of West Palm Beach.
The West Palm Beach Fishing Club is so much more than just a fishing club. We are very engaged in the community on a lot of levels. We provide scholarships at local educational institutions, Palm Beach Atlantic University, Forest Hill High School, Jupiter High School, Riviera Beach Marine Academy, and Florida Atlantic University, to name a few, where we encourage up-and-coming marine biology students and kids interested in the environment. We sponsor scholarships at those institutions. One of the neat programs that we do in the community every year is called Kids Fishing Day. For the last 26 years, we've been taking inner-city and underprivileged kids out on the water fishing. We always say it's a great day for kids and a bad day for bonita. And we've taken over 12,000 kids through this program where we not only take them fishing, but we give them a proper introduction to the sport of fishing. Every kid goes home with a brand new rod and reel and the wherewithal to how to use it. And so we give them a proper introduction to fishing, how to do it safely, how to do it properly, and hopefully inspiring some future stewards of the resource.
I think that one of the things happens is when you're a young child, when you're a young peewee angler, we have several different divisions. We have an adult division, we have a peewee division, and we also have a junior division. Those peewee anglers, when we first started giving out prizes to peewees, we decided that if you entered a fish, you got a prize. When we do our annual awards banquet and all those peewees come to the awards banquet, just to see their face when you call them up there and say, here's Johnny Thompson with a 10-pound Jack Crevalle or a 1-pound mangrove snapper, and he gets a pen rod or he gets a beautiful little trophy. These kids eat it up, and I think it's very important to bringing those kids along in the fishing club and allowing them to keep becoming stewards of fishing.
We really emphasize things like if there's no habitat, there's no fish, and so we try to ingrain in the kids that fishing's a great activity, but without a healthy environment, we're not going to have any fish. And so we talk about catch and release and the importance of things like mangroves and seagrass and oysters. And it's really been a very, very successful program. We have a lot of community support for it, but it's something that we've been doing for a quarter of a century now, and we've reached a lot of kids in the community through that.
There's nothing better in my mind to catch a world record or a club record and catch that fish, weigh it, and instead of killing it, turning it loose and knowing that that record fish is still out there living. One of the things the West Palm Beach Fishing Club did many years ago was develop a catch, weigh, and release program where you could catch your fish, weigh it with a certified club scale, take a picture of it, and turn it loose and still be able to enter it in our club contest. What a great way to make sure that that fish is still out there and survive. And it's a great teaching element, especially for kids. We thought about how can we better help these fish that they're weighing instead of weighing them, hanging them from their mouth. How can we come up with a way that people can weigh their fish and put them back, like, especially like big snook. You take a big snook, for instance, it's 30 pounds and you're hanging them from the lip. It's so much better if we could hang them horizontally. So what did we do? We tried to come up with a way to help them out. We came up with a snook sling. The West Palm Beach Fishing Club developed a snook sling that weighs exactly 1 pound, and the measurements are just the right size that you can put a legal fish in this sling and weigh it without harming the fish at all. Really a great tool that everyone should have.
While the club's initial purpose of being was to promote the region and promote tourism, we've kind of morphed in the last 80 years, and we're putting a lot more emphasis on the environment and trying to restore some of the wrongs that have been done. So much of the region has been overdeveloped from an environmental standpoint. The Lake Worth Lagoon right here outside the West Palm Beach Fishing Club has been very impacted by shoreline development, and so the club partners with groups like the Palm Beach County Environmental Resources Management and tries to enhance some of the marine environment, the estuary here in the Lake Worth Lagoon through mangrove plantings and oyster seedings. And so we're actively engaged in the restoration of the lagoon. It's self-serving to a point, because if we don't have habitat, we don't have fish, and that's what we're all about, fishing. But to a larger point, it really helps the region in a lot of ways. Whether you fish or not, we all benefit from clean water. And these environmental restoration projects that we're involved with are basically big water filters. They help filter the water. They help cleanse the water. They provide wonderful habitat for all kinds of fish and wildlife, and they make great fishing spots.
At one time, we were very closely allied with the city of West Palm Beach, and in fact, we were part of the Recreation and Parks Department. And we worked much more closely back in the early days and needed that support. But I think we're all very proud to say that that relationship is still very strong, but it's an independent institution that contributes to the community free to the taxpayers. It was a decade and a half ago that this institution was designated by the city as one of its historic sites, and we're now pursuing national historic designation as well. It's unique because well, first of all, as you look around, it's made out of that old Dade County pine. There aren't many of them around anymore. It's one of the oldest buildings around, right down here on Flagler Drive. People drive by and they say, what is that little building? But when they come in, they're amazed, because it is a museum that is not reproduced anyplace else. In the past 25 or 30 years, a lot of the great fishing institutions have disappeared because of competition from other activities. We're always competing for people's time, money, and effort. And there are so many other things to do that many of these fishing clubs around the United States and around the world have disappeared. This institution's probably doing better than it ever has because of its devotion to the community and its membership and its activities with regard to science and conservation and economics as well.
What the Fishing Club has done with their monthly seminars and meetings is they've filled that niche. They get these quality speakers, some of them national writers and speakers from around the country. They come in and they teach People want this information. They want to hear about it. They want to see hands-on. They want to touch and hold the rig. They want to be able to, how can I go out and do that and not ask all those questions? They're here in an open environment filled with all fishermen, men, women, kids. I can't tell you how many kids come to these seminars. It's an awesome thing.
The area became the center for development of sport fishing techniques, sport fishing gear, boats, and techniques. Three of the most famous boat builders in the world were located right in this vicinity. Rybovich in West Palm Beach has been here since the 1930s. Merritt down in Fort Lauderdale, Merritt Boat Works, and Whitaker Boat Works in Stewart. So this was a proving ground that attracted the best crews and the best anglers from all over the world. And it still has that distinction today. This offshore fishing experience has expanded throughout the world and is now one of the biggest economic engines in the recreational field. People today are buying 40-foot outboards to go fishing for billfish all over the Western Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean. And some of these boat builders are building 60, 70, 80, and 100-foot yachts chasing these animals all over the world. It's a very unique place where we developed the capability to not only catch these animals, but successfully release them so they could live to fight another day. Many of those captains and crews were members of the West Palm Beach Fishing Club. Many of our members went on to become members of some of the foremost conservation organizations in marine research today. West Palm Beach Fishing Club was pioneering all kinds of conservation techniques long before many of these organizations that we all know were even a thought. And when these organizations got started, many of our members were founding board members, whether it's of the Billfish Foundation, the Coastal Conservation Association, the National Coalition for Marine Conservation, for example, now called Wild Oceans. Many of our members became founding board members and are still members of those organizations today. And those organizations are really pioneering worldwide conservation techniques throughout the world.
A big part of the West Palm Beach Fishing Club is cultivating the next generation of not just fishermen, but environmental stewards. And so we have programs where we actively engage kids on these restoration projects, but also teaching them proper angling techniques that can help sustain the resource for many generations to come. So things like catch and release, how to properly handle a fish, why we have and need healthy habitat for fish. Those are all things that kids that are involved in the West Palm Beach Fishing Club and some of the initiatives that we do get a really good handle on. And these will be the people that are making decisions about the environment in the future. And so we're trying to give them a good start. So the West Palm Beach Fishing Club is just a whole heck of a lot more than just a fishing club. It's been an asset to the community for the last 80 years, and we look forward to contributing a lot more in the years to come.